growing up, music was always a part of, a part of the household, or even if we went on, car rides for family get-togethers, there was always music, kind of in and around where I was. My mom grew up playing the piano, and I would watch her play the piano, and just really kind of started to take an interest in music at an early age. And I know there was a neighbor that used to live across the street. He used to have a garage band, and when they were done rehearsing, I would make my way in there and ask if I could kind of see the drum kit, i.e., I kind of wanted to, jump on there and kind of, start hitting things randomly. And I just kind of discovered that I was really interested in the drum kit. My mom did put me through piano lessons. I enjoyed the music aspect of it, but I didn't really feel like it was the right instrument for me. Then I ended up, going to school with a fella who, his brother had a drum kit in his room, and whenever he wasn't home, we would kind of just, sneak in there and start playing drums. And I ended up actually buying that drum kit. It was just a little 4-piece, kick drum, snare, tom, floor tom, and a couple cymbals. And, story about that kit, like most floor toms have 3 legs that support it upright, and this one only had 2. The third one was missing, and so when I bought the drum kit, I took a stack of books and a Fraggle Rock lunch pail and used it to kind of support or act as that third leg, and spent a lot of hours practicing on that little scabby drum kit. But I did end up selling it, and my folks enrolled me into drum lessons, and then they ended up buying me my first Tama kit, and basically never really looked back. I'm virtually self-taught. I only took about 1.5 years worth of lessons. Didn't really have the discipline at 16 years old to kind of sit there and kind of be all regimented. I just wanted to kind of hit the ground and start running, and so stopped taking the drum lessons and just started really focusing on listening to what drummers were playing on records, and just developing my own style as I started to grow up. Hey there. What gear am I using? Well, let me tell you, I've had a lot of setups over the years, and this one by far is my favorite. This is my Tama Superstar Birch Series drum kit. Really love the sound of this drum kit. It is really quite awesome. That snare drum there is a 6.5 by 14 black brass snare drum. It's been upgraded with die-cast hoops in black nickel finish as well. Love the sound of the snare drum. The first rack tom is a 10 by 8 rack tom, and then the one beside it is a 12 by 9 rack tom. To the left of the hi-hat, I'm using a 14 by 12 floor tom. Very punchy sounding. Love the tone of that floor tom. And then when you make your way over to the right side of the drum kit, I'm using a 16 by 14 floor tom. Really love the sound of these shells. They just really cut through. Great tone as well. On the toms, I'm using Remo's Clear Emperors. I've used Emperors and Pinstripes over the years and just decided to outfit the kit with Emperors this time around.
And on the snare drum, I'm using Remo's Controlled Sound Black Dot Coated Head. Love the sound of this snare drum skin and have been using it for quite some time now. Next, we go over the cymbal setup. There's definitely no shortage of cymbals here. There's 13 in total. First off, I have an A Custom Rezo Crash. It's a 16-inch. The cymbal's very piercing and very loud, great for cymbal accents. To the right of that, I have a 19-inch A Custom Rezo Crash. Love being able to play off the two different sizes and love the tone from both of these cymbals. To the right of that, I have a 21-inch Z3 China cymbal. This is the biggest Chinese cymbal I've ever had in my setup. I'm a huge fan of China cymbals, and this one in particular has some really nice tones to it, and I love blasting off of it. Next to that, I have an 18-inch A Custom Medium Crash. Definitely love the A Custom line that Zildjian has. Next, I have a pair of 14-inch Dyno Beat hi-hats. I've had these hi-hat cymbals in my setup for quite some time. Just very loud and trashy sounding hi-hats. Love the sound of these things. They sound terrific. Above that, I have an 8-inch K Splash, very dark in tone, and I love having splash cymbals in my setup as well. Next, we make our way over to the right side of the drum kit. This is my 19-inch A Custom Crash. Nice to be able to have the 19 on the right-hand side and the 18-inch Crash on the left-hand side to be able to play off of each other. Next up is my second China cymbal in between those two crashes. It is Zildjian's 19-inch Z3 Chinese cymbal. Nice to be able to play blast patterns off of the 19 on the right-hand side and the 21-inch on the left-hand side. Below that 19-inch China is my 21-inch Zildjian Megabell ride cymbal. To the left of that is an 8-inch A Custom Splash. To the right of the ride cymbal is my 14-inch set of quick beat hi-hats. I've had these hi-hat cymbals in my setup for quite some time. Nice to have a secondary set of hi-hats. Above those, I have a 20-inch A Custom Crash. Nice to be able to play off of the 20 and the 19 on the right-hand side, or if I wanted to, play off of the 20 on the right and the 18 on the left. Finally, moving on to the very last China in my setup, this is an 18-inch A Custom Chinese cymbal. As for the pedals that I'm using, I use a DW9000 series remote hi-hat. I love that I can get this pedal right up close to my left kick drum pedal. I'm using Access Percussion A21 series kick drum pedals. I love how smooth these pedals are, yet I don't lose the power of the stroke due to the variable drive lever system that they came up with. As well, the E-Kit trigger boxes do come outfitted on these pedals. I love the E-Kit trigger system. It's just so reliable. I've had zero issues with latency or false triggering. Just really can't say enough about this pedal design.
First off, the local music scene here is thriving with talent. It was when I first started off, and it still is today. I've had the opportunity to jam and be in bands with some really good musicians over the years. The first band that I ever really sunk my teeth into was a band that I joined shortly after my 12th year in high school by the name of Dark Minion. We went on to play quite a few shows here locally and around the area as well. Recorded a couple records. I left that project to start another death metal band by the name of Decimation. It was a 4-piece that was incredibly heavy. Learned a lot from that project. Over the years, I've also had the opportunity to drum in bands that weren't metal. I played in a punk band called Super Sift, where I did a bulk of touring of North America, down in the States and across Canada. Most notably, we opened up for SNFU a couple times, playing to some sizable crowds, as well as local favorites, Belvedere at the time. I've also played for a band called Shrinking Violet, as well as a band called Supernal, another band called Blue Child, another kind of local favorite by the name of Chai Sugar that had a good run. I also drummed for another band called Todd Awning. Really enjoyed drumming for that particular project. Wasn't overly complicated, just a lot of fun. Then I kind of decided to get back into metal and death metal drumming. I ended up drumming for Path to Extinction as well as Day One, and did some session work with Arbitrator. By the way, look for the new release from Arbitrator. It is absolutely crushing. I've also had some notable auditions in my time. In 2007, I auditioned for the Black Dahlia Murder before they decided to go with Shannon Lucas, who is one of my favorite drummers. As well, in 2013, I auditioned for Jungle Rot. And in both instances, with both auditions, I learned a lot and am extremely grateful for the opportunity to have auditioned for both acts. Definitely Tim Herb Alexander from Primus. I mean, virtually every album that fella has played on, loved his work. Very creative drummer. Loved what he does with his cymbals as far as filling in the gaps, and all his tom work on the tracks. Just a very smart, progressive player. I would also say that Dave Lombardo and Paul Bostoff have been huge influences on my playing as well. Sean Reinhardt from Death, the Human Era. That album speaks loudly to me as far as the drumming. Just super expressive, very creative as far as his approach on the kit. Also Gene Hoglan, another big influence on me. I met him years ago at a club in Vancouver when I was playing a show, and really nice guy and an even better drummer. I would also say that, the main four, as far as death metal drummers go, Steve Asham, Mike Smith, Pete Sandoval, and Paul Mazurkowitz from their respective projects. I mean, those four guys alone have influenced a decade of drummers, and they certainly have influenced me. And lastly but not least, Mario Duplantier from Gojira, just a very smart drummer, plays for the band. As far as his parts, he's not writing parts that are flashy or drum soloish. He's very much playing for the song, and just have a huge respect for his stamina and his double kick work. Practice, practice, practice. You can never practice enough. I used to drive my folks nuts practicing wood shedding for hours on end on my kit, and working on developing my drum identity as a musician and coming up with different ideas. The other recommendation that I would make would be to listen to as many different drummers as you can, both in your local music scene as well as the drummers that are touring. I've learned a little bit from each drummer that I've ever seen play live, whether it be stage presence, maybe cymbal work or double kick work. I enjoy watching live drummers play. Also, I would make the recommendation of find a musical genre that works for you, whether it be metal, death metal, punk, rock, hard rock, maybe you like rockabilly. Find what speaks to you and really work hard on it. I know for myself, I love playing metal and death metal because it's very challenging when you're playing music at a very fast speed. Not a lot of room for error. I like that challenge and I thrive on that. Last, I would probably make the recommendation just jam with lots of different guitarists. I've learned tons over the years by jamming with different guitarists, both musically and personally. I've learned a little bit from each player, and I love being a part of the songwriting process, and that relationship between rhythm guitarist and drummer I've always held in high standing, and those are some of the basic fundamentals that I would suggest to young drummers just starting out.
Once I've taken off the hoop and heads, I use a clean cloth and water and start to make my way around the shell of the drum. I find that using water is better than using cleaning products, especially on plastic wrap finishes, as the majority of cleaning products leave scratches on the plastic wrap. Once the drum is clean, I put the resonant head back on. Then I clean the hoop using water and the clean cloth. When the shell and the hoop are clean, I finger tighten the drum lugs and use drum keys to snug them up, going in a crisscross pattern. Once the drum lugs are snug, I use a drum torque to tune the resonant head, once again going in a crisscross pattern to get the head tuned evenly. Now you're ready to clean the batter side hoop, repeating the earlier step of using a clean cloth and water. Finally, it's time to seat your new drum heads. Mounting the batter head evenly on the bearing edge of the shell, press down on the center of the skin. You will hear a cracking around the edges, and this is to be expected. Again, I finger tighten the drum lugs, going in a crisscross pattern. This time, I will tune the tension of the drum lugs tighter than normal. I then use a hair blower to heat the skin up so that it will take form of the bearing edge of the shell, which helps with keeping the drum in tune and for overall tuning accuracy. I let the batter head sit for 5 to 10 minutes while it cools down. Then I back off the tension of the drum lugs and retune the head to the desired tension. I'm using the Neri drum torque that I picked up in my travels over the years. This drum torque has been useful if I'm looking to tune my drums in a loud club or venue. Also, I find that using the drum torque, it gets me a lot more dialed in than using drum keys and relying on my ear. There is no right or wrong way when it comes to drum tuning. It's definitely a matter of personal preference. I've managed to find and develop a technique that I find hugely beneficial in achieving my sound.